Welcome back to another episode of the podcast where we talk all things AI, specifically integrating AI into your life, your work, and every aspect that it can benefit you. Again, I'm Patrick Somers. Co-hosting along with me is Scott Stolze.
Pa
Welcome.
Thanks, Patrick. As always, a pleasure. Great to be here. Hey, Patrick, I wanted to throw a question your way as we started this morning. He is not ready for this, but I know he can give us some really good insight to it. So, when you first met me the first 3 or 4 months, and we don't need to give the specifics of where it was or under what conditions, but just between you and I, were you at leery at all at first? My lack of technical background or even operational experience, did that deter you at all with like, how is this guy going to help me in my business? Or did it go a little bit down a different path?
So the quick answer is no, not with you. With the team itself, a little bit because they were supposed to be all operations, and I felt that I was teaching them quite a bit, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But with what you did, no, it didn't because you were about people, you were about culture, you were about communication, and you don't have to understand an industry to excel at that.
He was not ready for that question. I gave him no advance notice. And forget me for a second. Thank you, by the way, for some what I would consider good, constructive, healthy input. But there's a lesson in that. And Patrick and I are going to break that down a little bit because you, as a user and future user of AI, we want to share with you the notion that while even if you don't have a very strong technical background, this is the time for you to thrive. Say your people skills have always been a little bit more advanced than either your operation or technical skills. This is the perfect time for you. Use the abilities you have to build relationships, to communicate, to listen and learn about others, and combine that with the technology that's literally right at our fingertips today. And you're going to be even more valuable. You're going to be even more attractive to people, whether they're hiring, partnering, aligning with you. And that is what we want to talk about today. Patrick, are you finding, again, it's really early in this, but are you seeing signs of people who have some of those stronger soft skills and they're moving in this direction, or do you think they're not quite seeing the opportunity yet?
That's it's a really good question, and I will tell you, I'm thinking of some people that come to mind right away, and people that are really good with people,
Mm.
right? They're really, really excel. They're not truly embracing it or getting it, and I think the reason being is they're not technical people, and they're not typically these are the people I'm thinking of are the people that, like, struggle with a PowerPoint, struggle with some of the basic
Excel.
stuff that Excel that we use every day, even maybe some of the functions in Outlook or an email, some of
Yeah.
the more advanced functions, right? And so they're immediately and this it's amazing when you ask that question, the people that come to mind that I know, they are have this belief in talking to them that it's above them. They can't
Yeah.
figure it out. They don't understand it. And because they don't understand the other stuff, this is gonna be really difficult to understand. And I'm thinking about that's such a great question. For everybody out there tuning in, just so well, I have experience on my other podcast. Scott and I are brand new to podcasting together, our own show. And so there's a lot of work that has to go into podcasting. It's the one thing I underestimated when I started the Tradepreneur
Mm.
Show. And so obviously you have to come up with good episodes people are interested in. And sometimes we prep and sometimes we don't. And this is an episode where there was absolutely no prep. And he just kind of said, "Hey, this is what I think we need to discuss." And to me, it just made complete sense. So as you're asking me these questions, there may be a slight delay. There may be a backtrack just because in the moment, I'm literally thinking of people I know, conversations I've had, and different experiences. And the truth is, it's like I'm like, you know what? I need to be communicating to those people. You don't need to be technical. You don't need to know how to write code. And some of the stuff you might struggle with in typical applications, it's actually the AI is much easier than that.
So much easier.
There's just a few rules you have to understand. Like
Mhm.
anything, there's rules to the play of the game. And so as long as you understand those basic rules, and those basic rules are things that they already excel at, and that's communication. Because
Mhm.
how you communicate to AI makes all the
Massive.
difference in the world.
Yeah. Keep thinking, Patrick, about some of those people. And even though you likely wouldn't be naming them, what you're seeing from them, what they do well, and where they're at in this journey, and how you might be able to help them. Because I think you expanding on that will be really helpful. Again, Patrick runs businesses, certainly the one that he co owns, and then helps his wife with several businesses as well. And you're always dipping in. I mean, you've helped me. I have a much different journey or initiative. It's really a solo venture, but Patrick helps me with that. But while you're thinking about that, I want to share just one small anecdote because what Patrick just said is 100% applicable to me. There's somebody that I work with pretty regularly. I wouldn't say she doesn't have a coding background, but she's pretty technical and savvy. She's very intuitive, picking up tools. And she started using AI before I did. I remember last summer a couple of times, this is real quick. She was already producing a lot of outputs using AI. And I was not only overwhelmed by it because her and I were working on projects together, I was intimidated. I was literally like, how am I ever going to do that? Like I was intimidated. Now I have fast forward 9 months or whatever it is, I've worked through all that. And I'm telling you, if you haven't jumped in already, do it. To Patrick's point, prompting, if you're a good communicator, you're going to be good with AI because prompting is so massive. But I wanted to set the table with that as you get more of your thoughts together on these people. I'm somebody who was intimidated less than a year ago, and now I think I use AI pretty well. But the bigger point with my journey is this is me. I'm taking my people skills and I'm going to blend it with AI and I want to go out and crush it.
Yeah. Well, and here I am thinking, and this is a related topic. It's on the same path, but people that there's two ways people are using AI. One is they're actively using some of the AI platforms, whether it's Gemini, Claude, Chat,
Mhm.
Perplexity, Ace 44, you name them, right?
Mhm.
You could spend all day here sitting naming all the platforms out there. So there's people that are actively engaging with them on that level. And then the people that are not actively engaging with them are still engaging with AI. Many times they don't even know it.
Can you give an example of that? How is somebody engaging? Is by search or what do you mean they're engaging with AI?
Well, so when they call a business and there's an
Mm,
AI virtual
yeah.
now assistant, right? Or there's AI's routing calls and things like that.
Mm,
When you're calling into a business, there's for us in our business, we're using AI in some of our processes that benefits the homeowner. The homeowner doesn't
they don't even
understand,
know.
right? As far as routing and dispatching and things like that. So
Mhm.
while they may not actually be interfacing it on that end, it's in their lives already. And it's going to become more and more.
Can I interject a question? Do you feel it's important that you at some point let some customers know how you're using AI? I honestly have never thought of that question, but it just came to me as I listened to you. Do you think it'll be important at some point to let customers know how you're using AI as a business owner?
Well, I believe I don't know if it and that's a really good question. And there's so many ramifications to that question, and there's going to be so many ramifications to AI. So one way we do it is we record when we're in the home. Right? So we have to let the homeowner know and get
Mhm.
permission because California is a two-party state. So we let them know in that case, either they consent or they don't consent. But I think it's one of those things like so when somebody calls in to the business, we notify them we're on a
You do.
recorded line,
Yeah.
but we don't notify them you're on a recorded line. It may be dealing with an AI agent.
Got it.
However, most AI agents, and we're testing ours still, so we haven't deployed it. And I think there's a couple reasons we haven't deployed it, which we could delve into, because a lot of them have to do with human beings and their uncertainty of AI's role, and others is this perception that AI, it's not perfect, so we can't launch it. So we can tackle that in a moment if you'd like, but some of the AI agents out there do clearly identify themselves as an AI agent, and the one we're testing will say if it gets too complex or it's something where it knows it needs a human being, it will say, "Let me connect you to a live agent."
I feel like that's a topic we should tackle right after this too. Let's steer back to because I'm glad that that came up. Let's steer back to the people because I think you were starting a good point, and I interrupted you with the question. So because you were talking about people are interacting, people who haven't yet embraced AI, they're interacting with it when they don't even realize it.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
so let's go back down that path. Do you think is that a good thing? Is that something that's gonna be to their advantage down the road because 'cause they're gonna see benefits of it? Where are you going with that?
Listen, if it was an advantage to the customer, the one engaging, interacting, the one that's having the experience, businesses wouldn't use it. A lot of you out there may be saying, "Well, no, 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 it's all about money. It's all about saving money," right? Let me talk to you about AI, CSRs, agents. for a minute because sure, I could deploy those and not have to add more CSRs in the office, and
Mhm.
that's a huge savings, but I need CSRs in the office, so nobody gets replaced. What this does, how this better helps the customer is you can only answer so many calls, and you can't staff to answer 100 calls at a time or within a 10-minute window, right? Because that's unpractical. Uh, Business will go out of business. But you can staff to know what your normal call volume typically is, and you staff to that. Now, when something happens, there's a power outage. There's some sort of weather phenomenon that wasn't really predicted, and we're getting a lot of calls now. Now, instead of not being able to take those calls, AI agents can handle every one of those calls
Mhm.
with the overflow and get something booked and get it handled and get it on the schedule, which is a much better experience than being put on hold or "we'll call you back" type of scenario. I think that the interaction people have with it, you call and you book a reservation, a lot of times it's being done through the use of AI, and a lot of your travel platforms are starting to use it and things like that. So, yes, it makes the customer experience better, not always, right? Some of these things don't work out the way people want to, or they're ahead of their time. But businesses, yes, they're going to do stuff to save money, but they're also going to do stuff to make money, which is to increase the consumer's experience. Because if you do something to save money and it makes the experience worse, it's not going to work, not long term.
Long-term failure for sure. I know I'm adverse still to this day, even though I've come around a lot on AI and the use of. But when I hear a voice that I clearly know is not a human on the phone, chances are I'm either going to hang up or you just wait to call later. There's a number of examples. I try to avoid it, unless though. I want to be realistic about this, and not just because you and I work together. If I'm living in your neck of the woods, which has a lot of heat most of the year, and it's July and there's a heat wave and I need service or I need help right away, I think I'm gonna go through with that call. If I call and it's AI helping me and I can realize it, but that helps me get a service scheduled, I'm gonna do it.
Well, yes, of course. And so here's what I do. So when we talk about when I call a business and it's an automated phone system, I don't get upset with that. I get upset when there's multiple layers to get to what I need.
Mm,
Right? So push one for this, push two for this, do that. And there was, I haven't done it in a while, but I think it was Amazon. I had to call their customer
mm.
service a couple
How
times.
did that go?
Phenomenal.
Really?
Their service was that, yeah. Now this was a number of years ago. I haven't done it recently, but I was so impressed with how efficient their customer service was and how quickly they handled my issues and how easy it was. It was just amazing. But to your point, people don't get frustrated. It's my belief and my experience with automation and technology. They'll get it just as frustrated with a human being if the human being is not
True.
proficient and efficient.
It's more the process than the who or how.
Correct. I think I'd be willing to bet that your reluctance to go forward with
I know what you're
a
gonna say.
machine is because of your belief system of bad experiences with it. So as soon as you hear an automated system or whatever, you're immediately like, I don't have time for this. This is, and the other part of it is you're a people person. So
Yes.
you want to talk to the person. You really, like me, I don't want to talk to anybody. I really don't. Like just get me solve my problem. Get me what I need. And the fewer people I can talk to in the shortest amount of time I can talk to them, the happier I'll be.
You know what's so funny is I was hung up this morning, Patrick and I coming to meet at the time that we had set, and I was on a call taking care of an issue for my father who's a little bit older. And true story. I remember I texted you a couple hours ago and I waited to get a live person on the phone. This is unbelievable how you call that out. And we ended up talking. The call went way longer than it should have because I was in conversation with
Yeah.
her. And the issue needed a lot of attention. And I think she was able to give me the nuanced feedback and attention that it required. But, oh yeah, I'm giving her all these thoughts and feedback in the process, and that's what I do.
Well, and this isn't so much AI. Well, it'll become more and more AI as part of it. But on the other hand, what I don't like is when I go into a McDonald's, let's say, and I can't have a human being take my order. I go into the bank every week. I go into the bank. I deposit my paycheck. I do the transactions at the bank, and people are like, "Patrick, why do you do
I'm
that?"
surprised you do that.
I,
I didn't know that.
well, one, I'm in business, so having a relationship with the banks and the local branches and they know your face, that helps because you end up getting, I believe, better service,
Mhm.
right? Because they know you and they recognize you and they're quick about it. But there's certain transactions I do like dealing with people. Right? When I go to the airlines and I check in, right? Now I normally don't have to check in because I typically do everything in my power not to travel with baggage. Anything I gotta check. I can't stand when I have to go to a kid. Now, I'm a bit snobby because of the amount of travel I have. I never have to stand in the regular line. But even still, I do not want to print out my own luggage tag, put it on my thing. And I think for me, it's more of not dealing with automated systems versus people. It's what is the most expedient. And some of these systems, because they don't deploy AI and they're just punch screens, right? That they're not efficient for me.
Do you see a quick aside? Do you see like in 3 years the process of checking in at the airport vastly different from what it is today
Oh,
because of AI?
it already is because of I use Clear. Clear uses your biometrics. Now I go to Clear. I don't even go to the TA, but there's a Clear person that scans my biometrics and the gates swing open and I go through.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, there's people out there that are like, "Oh, biometrics." My son's one. Like, I'm not giving them this. I'm not giving them that. I'm like, they already got it.
They do.
If you've been in a public building, if you've been to a casino, they already have all of your biometrics. It's being scanned all the time. So I'd rather have it where I opt into it and I control and I get the privacy policies and everything like that. But it will continue to evolve. I remember this was probably in the early I remember these commercials AT&T had, and it was like, "One day, you'll be able to go through a toll without stopping." Right?
Ah,
And these cars were just driving through a toll. One day, you'll be able to send an email from the beach, and that person's sitting on the beach doing their and they're all this stuff that, like, my kids have grown up only knowing that
mhm.
way was like, one day, this is what's coming. And there's a great commercial for British Gas. It's been out a while. I'll have to show it to you. Maybe I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But it's about the home of the future and how somebody goes to work and remotely they adjust their stove and their settings.
Yeah.
They call for service.
Smart home stuff?
The service guy shows up. He goes in. All of this, and it's basically like the future,
Mm.
right? But it's a really well done commercial. But so the way we interact with so many things is constantly evolving, constantly changing, and I think that this is, as Scott knows, and, if you've listened to I don't know if I talked about it in any of our previous episodes, I was just in Canada, and I went on this vision quest. And here was the takeaway, and this is relevant to AI and the evolution of technology. As long as we don't get away from going outdoors, letting the sun hit our face, letting our feet touch the earth, breathing fresh air, as long as I'm a firm believer, as long as I keep that in my life to some extent, whether it's just going on a hike one day on the weekend, whether it's going out 4 days in the wilderness on my own, whether it's going hunting. Yes, I said hunting. If there's some of you people may have out there, I don't know, vegans or some shit, but I said hunting. And I'm okay if you're a vegan. You're probably not very healthy. So eat meat. That's
Eat
my
meat.
endorsement, and that's my opinion.
Run with it. Not changing this guy, but the outdoors is what you're saying, as long as we're blending some of that in. So here's what I'm feeling. I'm going to do two things right now. I'm going to share what I'm feeling based on the last few minutes of what you said, and then steer us in a direction to wrap this particular episode, going back to how this started. But it's all tied together. I'm glad you opened the door, because what I'm feeling is that Patrick's illustrating a way with we're going to naturally interact with AI more and more. So even if you don't believe in it much right now or yet, you're going to start using, seeing, and being part of it more and more, that you're eventually going to just maybe come around. And in some cases, you're going to be like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. I'm going to use it more. That's one thing I'm feeling as I listen to you. Like, it's inevitable you're going to have it interact with your life more and more. And then the other part, though, not though, but the other part is and you can take us home on this one. So we have a lot more to discuss about this in future episodes. Again, people skills blended. You do not have to be extremely technical to use AI at a high level. And we want to encourage that. So when you're ready, if you haven't already, start throwing yourself in. Today, no better time than today. But Patrick is like, what would you say? Because you're almost a better example. We're a little different in some ways. Here's the biggest illustration. Earlier, I like to talk with a customer service rep or anybody who works somewhere. You're like, just solve my problem. What's your guidance to people professionally in business? Because let's face it, we're out to solve problems, make money, bring value, learn, evolve. If you're not growing, you're dying. So, what is your message as we wrap this episode to people who are not yet across the goal line with AI and using it daily, but they feel like they want to talk, they want to have conversations, they want to interact, they like the touchy feely stuff? Isn't the solving problems a good message because you have to use this technology to solve a lot of problems? Where would you take that?
Yeah. So first, let me walk into that and say that it's all around us, and it's going to be very hard to ignore it, especially as it evolves. And I'll give you a perfect example. Probably 10, 12 years ago, I couldn't stand having a cell phone, and I still can't. I can't live without it, but I wish I could. Because my cell phone is my laptop, my
Mhm.
desktop, it's everything. So I decided, and of course, it wasn't an iPhone, and they weren't as advanced as they are now, or at least the one I had wasn't. And I just decided I'm not going to use a cell phone. So I stopped using a cell phone. I lasted maybe 3 weeks. And here's why. Every time I needed to check in with my wife, let her know I was going to be late or call the office or whatever, I had to find a payphone. And I could not find payphones. I would drive around trying to find a damn payphone and I could not find one. I'm like, I don't have a choice if I wanna be able to call now because if I'm not at a place where there's a phone like the office or something, I gotta find a payphone, and payphones just don't exist anymore.
No, they were going away at least 15 years ago.
Yeah, so and you can I actually found one. I was at a resort in Disney for, a conference, on HVAC, and, I went down the back hall, and there was a whole bank of, like, 15 or 20
Oh, yeah, I love that.
phones still there from back in the day, right? And then you can occasionally find one at a truck stop or something like that, but they're very hard to find anymore, so I had to go to it. So, my point in that is, yes, can you avoid this technology? Can you avoid all technology? Yes, there's gonna be some people that do. You can go live off the grid, you can go and totally unplug, and there's some people that are doing that now and that will do that. But if you're living just kind of the typical life, you've got your hobbies, you got family, you got friends, you got a career, you got a vehicle. Your vehicle's full of AI, right?
Newer
Uh,
ones.
yeah, yeah, newer ones. And you've got all of that going on. It's going to be hard to avoid it. So how do you integrate it? How do you and your question was pretty much like if they're fearful of it,
Yeah,
right?
your message to I just think you're a better example than me in this regard because you have and are part of several businesses with a lot of team members, and you owe it to your team to not only see where AI is coming into play in the business, but that they leverage it too so they can get better at their jobs.
Yeah.
And then I think I asked this earlier, and we can get into it more in another episode. I'm still going to be curious, like how much do we want customers to know where AI is at play? Because it could help their experience. It could, but your message to people who are still not quite fully in the pool of AI and helping them see the value because listen, it's going to
Well,
help you thrive professionally and it's going to help your
Well,
business.
and I think I'll go back to getting outside. If you can use AI the right way, it will increase your efficiency and it will give you more time. But just like I was talking, I think in a few previous episodes, your phone should be able to give you more time, but we allow it to take us down rabbit holes. If you use AI the right way in your business and in your life, it will save you time. It will make you more efficient. Now, what's important is what do you do with that time you save? Well, my advice is get outdoors. Go get lunch with a friend. Take a walk. I mean, look, as much as we have technology and a lot of our podcasts are going to be remote because I mean you're gonna and I'll remote in because we're in two different states. But there's nothing better than when you're able to travel here and we're in
Mhm.
studio in person. It's so much better. And so just be open to the technology. Think get your information from the right sources.
That's
Don't
important.
believe everything you hear. Be skeptical, have healthy skepticism and look at where it fits into your life. And there's some areas that it's just not there yet. It's just not there. And I'll give you a perfect example. For us with HVAC, the trades, dispatching, AI dispatching, it can do some pretty amazing things, but it's not there yet.
Mm,
Right? There's some programs out there and they're trying to figure it out, but it's not really AI because it's dependent too much on human input and it can't look into the database and see the pictures and read the notes and make decisions off of that. Right? So if our CSR tags something wrong or says that there's old equipment there and hasn't updated that it's new equipment. AI can't go through everything and decipher that.
Of
So
course
it's
I
just
don't.
not there yet. So I think really be and don't the other thing is don't expect too much from I think I refer to my brother a
Mm.
lot, and I think my
It's the first
brother
time I've heard somebody say that.
well, because, my brother was trying to do some things with AI for his business, and he got so frustrated because it wasn't producing the outcomes he wanted. One, it's you have to be patient with it. You have to prompt it correctly, and you have to understand that it makes mistakes. It's flawed. It hallucinates and it has to learn. So somebody like and I went through the same thing when I was using it for my business for budgeting purposes. Some of the early stuff that it produced was garbage. And part of it was I was garbage in to it and it was garbage out to me. But as I've worked with it more and more, it's amazing what it can produce. But I don't have too high of an expectation with it. I mean, I do, but I temper it. I temper it. And it but with that said, it never ceases to amaze me what it's capable of doing.
Well, there's a big silver lining to what you just said. I'm glad you threw that point in before we wrap. Is that the fact that it isn't perfect? That opens the door for us to stay very involved. I believe this. I'm not just saying. AI is not taking over the world, this country, and it doesn't need to take over any business. You're verifying for sure that humans need to stay very involved, and of course, I believe our prompting is massive. I can't wait. I want to do a whole episode on prompts. I know
Yeah.
you
Oh,
do
yeah.
too. Um, but you're almost an ideal. I think together we're an ideal pair to be sharing about this. You can see it's we're learning as we go too. But our outlook, I would ask anybody who hears this show and going forward, continue to listen to Patrick and I for no other reason, maybe a little of the expertise, hopefully a lot in some cases, but more so for watch how we're learning and looking at things. Your perspective on this as somebody who is kind of like, I know you like to, you dove into AI way before I did because you like to see how this stuff can work and how it can help your business. That's a great thing to be doing. But also, you're very tempered, is the word I would use. You're very like it's not perfect. I can't use it everywhere yet. I know I still the phone thing is a great metaphor. Like you still need to pull over and look for a payphone. That's what we're all still doing in the life of AI. We still need to pull over once in a while and look for a payphone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and let me say something because you'll be surprised at this too. I'm actually surprised. So first of all, I don't use drive-throughs except on a very rare
Or do I?
occasion.
Yeah.
I can't stand. I call them lazy lanes. I'm like, you can't get out of your damn car and walk into the restaurant or wherever you're going. I'm like, and instead you'll sit in this long line, right?
Insane.
So I go to, and I'm not like this Starbucks fanatic, right? I like a good cup of black coffee, right? But I go to a Starbucks every day on the way into work. And shout out to the Starbucks on Jefferson in Indio, California. Been there a couple years. Great team in there. And every day I go in there, I park my truck, I walk in, I don't use the app. I see all these people, they pre-order the app, they run in, they grab their stuff off the counter and they run out. Well, that app there, I don't know if it's using AI yet, but it will. It
Mm.
will evolve to be to use AI and make your experience easier and easier and easier. But when I get a cup of coffee, Starbucks was started as the third place is
Mm.
the concept, right? The third place to have coffee. I don't want to me, it's not a transaction, right? I like to go. I like to park my truck. I like to go in. I go up to the counter. I order. I like to have a conversation with the young kids that work there, right? And I like to tell them to have a good day. And it's what's great now is I go in so many times I walk up to the register and they're already handing me my coffee because they
Mhm.
see me pull up. And I love watching them because they're hustling. These are young kids working the drive-through, working the counter, doing all the right things and delivering a great customer experience.
Experience.
But I watch these people that come in and they're just in and out. And so
They're
it's fun.
probably still looking at their phone the whole time they're
Yeah.
walking in and out.
And that's some things that people are surprised when they hear that I do those type of things, like going into the bank and stuff,
Mm.
because in some areas, there's some areas that the relationship is important, the slowing down is important. And there's other areas that it's like, this is just a transaction, solve my problem. I got to move on. Right. And so, anyways, with that said, I think if you're reluctant to AI, if you don't know how it fits into your life, look down in your hand, look at your phone, because most of you listening to this probably have a phone in your hand or within arm's reach. And there was a time you didn't have that phone. Well, depending on your age, right? Some of you out there were practically born with a phone. My daughter asked me one day, she said, when she was littler, she said, Dad, what kind of phone did you have when you were little? I said one with a
Look,
very long cord so we could go in the pantry if we wanted privacy, right?
shut the door.
So, anyways, with that said, man, this was a good conversation. I hope the listeners out there, I hope you got something out of it. You know, as we evolve this show, we're going to have some guests. We're going to have some data we pull and things like that. But a lot of what we're going to do is just a conversation around our experiences and our takeaways. And look, if you're out there with the AI, you're new to it. You're experienced. Maybe you're just on your own, or maybe you run a company, large or small. Go to, what is it? Take Control.
Take control AI.
TakeControlAI.com. It's a website Scott and I put together. There's a few. You can sign up for our newsletter if you'd like. We'll send you lots of helpful information and insights. You can also take an assessment just to kind of see where you are in your understanding of AI and get some feedback on maybe some of your blind spots. There is going to be something that we're going to be charging for on there, a more in-depth, more than a survey. It's actually going to take some questions from you and then show you exactly what tools you could implement today to save yourself 5 to 10 hours a week in your job. That one we will be charging a small fee for, but right now we are not. You know, we're brand new to this. The website's just launched, so get in there, take advantage of it now. It's takecontrolai.com. With that said, until next time, disconnect for a few minutes a day at least.
Please.